I'm about to do a quick cleanup of a piece of art. So this is what the customer sent me. Put it into Corel Draw. It came in real bright. I don't know if you can see that. It's like extremely bright blue. That's the front of the shirt. It's going to be just a small middle of the chest print. The back of the shirt, if you want to mock up, you just have to clean this up. Get a little of the blurriness out of this so I can clean it with sharp lines. So it's going to be a real quick video. Start with a small one. If I can't see it, I'm going to go to the effects, adjust, and hue saturation, and lightness. And I'm going to put the lightness on black. So now you see it changes to black. It's good enough for me to see. And now I can just trace it. Actually, I see it's a lot of curved lines. So instead of tracing it, I'm going to make this a square. So I'm going to make my square and hit the shape tool to round the edge. You need about the same roundness as this square right here. And copy and paste it. And then I'm going to make a tighter um, one with tighter corners, still curved for the edges here. So after I have my edges, I'm going to put them on the corners. Select both of these and press T so now they're even. Drag this into the bottom. Drag this one down. Just making sure I go drag them both down into the white because I'm about to draw a straight line with my freehand tool. So I got my straight line. Move it over, make it even. Just change it a little bit. Alright, and I pretty much have boxed in that shape. So if I use a smart fill tool, I can just fill in the parts of the shape that I want to keep and not fill in these other sections. I'm going to select just these three colors, control these to go back, weld them together. So as you see now there's one shape. I'm going to copy and paste it, control C, control V. I'm going to hold down control to flip it, hold down shift, keep it on the same plane or on the same line, and then I'm going to drag it over. I see that this one's slightly bigger, okay? So I'm going to bring it down a little bit, bring it over a little bit. I'm trying to put it right in the middle of this shape. So since it's a little bigger, I'm going to add contour to it to give it the size that I want. So the same shape, just one's a little bigger. So add contour, a little bit bigger. Now I think they're the same size. Right click on my contour, break it apart. So now it's its own individual item. A lot of times when I pull the piece of art to the side, I'm just showing you what I'm looking at or what I'm doing. Then I'm hitting Control Z to snap it back into place and then continue on with doing the art. Even if I wasn't doing this tutorial, sometimes I do that just to make sure I'm selecting what I'm selecting. So I might, you know, just like I might move the graphic just to make sure I drew everything, then hit Control Z just to put it back into place. So I do that a lot. So yeah, so I'm gonna select the contour. I'm gonna select the fills that I made, and I'm gonna combine those by using the weld tool. I'm gonna take the outlines off of everything I have so far. Move the shapes that I started with away, and I can see what I have. Take this outline off. You see there's just a little bit of gray poking out. That just kind of lets me know where my shape was. It's not necessary that I cover the gray area. If I want to see behind it, there's two ways I can do this. I can either use my transparency tool, which is this checkerboard over here. Click on my object, click the checkerboard, and then you drag it the percentage of how much you want to see through it. So if I want to see through this, 30%, I can see the object behind it. So if I want to see if I'm tracing it accurately, this is a good tool to use. Um, I'm gonna take my transparency off. I just hit in the checkerboard that says no transparency in the top left underneath the word file. All right, and I'm gonna show you another way that I do it. I'll put a very bright outline on it. Right now this has an orange outline. Change that outline to a hairline so it's not in the way. So it's extremely skinny outline. And now I will take away the fill by left clicking at the bottom of all the way to the left of my color bar. So now I can really see whether I'm tracing it accurately or not. And again, it's not going to be perfect because it's pixelated, so it's a blur. So part of some of this is using your imagination to decide where the line ends, where the line begins, and what your exact shape is going to be. So in this case, I know that I can, zoom in and be extremely picky about it. But if I zoom out, I clearly have the gist of what the shape is. So I don't have to overthink it or overdo anything. I'm just going in now and making sure I have all curved lines because there were no straight lines in the original, so I don't want to cheat that and give it straight lines and change the look. So I'm curving all my edges. I'm adding a node, and then I'm clicking in between my two straight nodes and turning it into a curve. So now I have the ability to arch it, and then I delete it, and it makes it easier for me to manipulate that shape. And that's just something I learned. So if you add nodes on two ends of the part that you want to change before you delete a node, you have more control over the area you're trying to change. So sometimes it'll change too much of the shape. Um, this is the same shape. I'm sorry, let me go back. This is the same shape repeated. Let me turn this back. Color it was. Take the outline off. So these are the same, look like almost the same shape repeated. So I'm just gonna copy and paste the one I made. I'm gonna shrink it down to size. I'm going to click on it again so it has these rotation symbols on it rather than you see these are my scale symbols, so I can make it bigger and smaller, or I can click it again and then I can rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it close to where I want it, hold control, click it again, and flip it. Now I'm going to rotate it again. You can also hold control when you're rotating if you want to rotate perfectly on an axis, like 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 0 degrees, so on and so forth. This is going to take some manipulation to get this shape exact, so don't trip. Just take your time. And I zoom in and zoom out, and I make sure everything looks good. But around this corner out a bit more so that it matches the shape that I'm trying to make. And I see that I'm very close to the shape, but there's just a little bit more of the shape, of the original shape under there because I can see all the black that's around it. So I'm going to take my contour tool and I'm going to make this bigger until it gets to about where the gray and the white start to blend together to get it a bigger size rather than stretching the nose out. It's just a quick shortcut. I broke the contour apart, making its own individual object. I'm holding down shift to click both the objects. You know that I have both the objects by these two dots. So I'm gonna have one object. One object just shows me the nose that I have, so they have one dot on the outskirts. If I hold shift and click the inner object, now you see that there are two dots, so you know I have both these objects. Another way to know would be just to drag it over and to see if I bring over both of them. Hit Control Z to put it back where I want it. I still have the two controls, and I hit my weld tool to make them one shape. So now you see that's one shape. Now I'm going on to the next portion. So I'm going to copy and paste the one I just created, double click on it to rotate it around, hold control, and then drag it over. Then I'm trying to just line it up and make it close to this shape if I can get it. I want this line to be straight, so I'm going to remove this node, click on this, and hit the straight line. So now if I put a node here, and this is what I was saying about earlier, if I put a node here, this node right here, now when I remove this node, I have more control over the arch, and I can make a smoother arch coming out of that straight edge into where it's curved at. I've also learned that adding and then removing a node gives you kind of a auto smooth effect, just like using the smoothing tool. It's just you have a little bit more manipulation on exactly what line you're smoothing, rather than the smoothing tool. You kind of just rub it over the area and it affects every node that it comes into contact with. Alright, want to make sure I get the edges of these looking good. Alright, pretty simple on that one. Might make it slightly bigger. And the whole shift and stretch it out a little bit. Move this down a little bit. That's it. Move it over. Yeah, so this shape is cool. You got, a little gray sticking out from underneath, but that's so zoomed in that it's way more minute than it seems. So I'm gonna go back to the shape up top because I like that it's closer to this shape. I almost can tell that I can kind of like double this shape to get that shape. So that's what I'm gonna try to do on this one. I'm gonna tilt it up, make it a little bit smaller, push it down a little bit actually, and then I'm gonna copy paste, and then I'm gonna flip this, rotate it up, and work on the other side, getting the corners lined up. The reason I made two of these instead of using one is because honestly, sometimes as I'm doing art, it's like my mind starts adapting and I come up with easier ways to do stuff than the first go round. So in this case, I'm making basically the same shape with little variations over and over again. So naturally, I start to come up with a system um, of how I'm going to go about doing this. And it's good to have that because when you're doing stuff that involves repetition, it allows you to speed up and get quicker. And also, for the next job or any job that has a similar situation to this, I'll already have in mind to consider that I could do these kind of effects, so I could use the system that I came up with on the last piece of art to make an effect instead of doing something one by one, like for example, like a brick pattern or something. Once you get into making a pattern, um, eventually you just get into kind of like a copy and paste mode. My name is Anita, actually. Let me get a glass one. corner looking good. Grab another one of these, flip it around. Shift down and rub these together. Now I gotta make one shape. Now the first part of that is out the way. I'm just checking it out, sizing it up, seeing how it looks. Looks extremely like the graphic originally sent. So I'm gonna weld all these together. I'm gonna keep it blue for now, just so I can tell the difference between this and the black. Keep it on top of there, and then I'm gonna do the word. The same thing. I'm gonna create a square, and I'm gonna kind of round the edges of the square off using the smooth tool, because I see that these aren't um, perfect corners; they're rounded corners. Sorry, let me do that again. I'm gonna turn this, give this a blue outline, very light blue outline. Put it on hairline so that I can see what I'm doing. And then make this a little taller. No, I'm gonna keep it where it's at. So you can kind of see in the gradients where it starts to go up instead of turning it to white. I kind of like to keep it um, where it's darker, and I do that for two reasons. One reason is because, or halfway through the dark, um, if I'm gonna choose to, if I'm gonna choose to try to match the bottoms up, I want to put a line down here. The reason why I don't go all the way to the edge of the gray is because sometimes I feel like that's just um, something like, let's call it the residue of the curve or the shape. So you don't want to, I'd rather stick to the darker part of it because I feel like that's where the real form of the shape is, and the lighter part is kind of just like that blur behind it, almost like the shadow. So I don't usually consider that part of the shape. Sometimes by doing that, you can make things a little bit too big or off proportion of what people are actually trying to project to you. Because if you back up, the A looks sharp. You know, it's not until you zoom in where you see all this extra right here. So because I can't see that with the naked eye when I zoom out, I don't want to when I'm tracing my shape. I stick to where it's darker. See, if I really zoom in, it is a couple of lines of gray in here, but the gray is going into the black, and it's very dark. And when I zoom out, I almost don't even notice that gray. So I kind of just, stick in between the middle of this section of gray and the section of gray right before it becomes dark. Hope that's not too confusing. Okay, I got my outline on the eye. It's a hairline outline so that I can see and it's transparent. I'm gonna copy and paste it, and I'm gonna hold shift and just drag it over to my A. By holding shift, I also guarantee that um, when I drag it over, I'm also guaranteeing that the top is lined up and the bottom is lined up. There's a circle in that A. I'm gonna deal with that later. I'm just gonna kind of use this same shape to help build the A. So I'm gonna copy and paste it as much as needed, and then I'm gonna manipulate it to make the different sides of the A. Like I'm gonna slant this one. I'm using my line at the bottom as a guideline. I'm gonna turn this into curve so I can manipulate it and drag the nose down to my line. hold shift to individually select the bottom and the top node while holding shift down. I drag it over. Now I just want to move my top ones over. And you see, I'm starting to create this A. I'm gonna hit Control V to copy and paste this. Hold down Control, flip this to the other side. I'm holding shift to drag it over, to drag this over to line it up to make the other part of the A. Triangle in the middle, I kind of have up here, so I'm gonna use my Smart Fill tool so I don't have to ungroup everything. Smart Fill that one piece of the logo up top that I want, then make this smaller. Then manipulate it into being the center of the A. There's several ways to do this. This is just what I chose to do with this piece of art because it was right there. I'm just going to do one side of the A or one side of the center of the A, and then I'm going to duplicate it because I find that that's very easy for symmetry to make sure that both sides are exactly the same. So instead of trying to line up the left side and the right side um, with this type of detail, I'm going to make one side like I just did. So I'm going to make this see-through, change the outline to blue, and the hairline, so I can see what I'm doing. And you see I have one side of that inside A done. So I can put a square right here and pretty much split it in half. Smart fill that. Delete my square. Take my smart fill, copy and paste it. Hold control, flip it over. Then I can select both of them and weld them together. I'm going to delete this top portion where they zone to make that smoother. I'm going to put a node on each side at the bottom and delete everything in the middle to make that one coherent smooth line. And now I have the inside of the A. So now that I have that inside of the A, I'm going to use my smart tool and fill all the gaps of the where I built the A with the shape, with the rectangle. Selecting everything, and I'm going to, select everything again. I'm going to weld them together. To change the color to make sure I welded everything, and know I missed the shape, so I'm going to weld that. Now I have everything. And as you see, the everything was built around that circle of the A. So now I have to come back and get that. We're on to the M. I'm going to use this again. It's looking like a pretty convenient tool. And this is another one of those talk about coming up with a system. So I see that the M kind of has a similar shape to this triangular shape that I've been using. So I'm going to use that for the bottoms of the M, copying and pasting it, flipping one around, holding shift to make sure that they're the same height, copy and paste it to make the third one, flip that upside down, get the middle of that M, move it over a little bit, copy and paste it, flip it around, hold down shift, do the other side of the M, see the N over here, um, copy and paste these, and we'll go ahead and set up my M, flipping this around and manipulating my shape to where it fits in the bottom of the N. Double click this. I'm gonna add a node up here so that when I move this node, it doesn't mess up the curve at the top. And then I'm going to add two nodes on each side of it and delete that node just to be able to smooth that little area out. See how I did that? Make this node a straight line. Now you got the bottom of the end. Copy and paste that. Take it up here, flip it upside down and backwards. And that's the top of the end. I see right here, this is not a straight line. So I'm going to create a node. I'm going to bring it over to the edge of the end, about where I think the edge of the end is. And then I'm going to click in the middle of these two nodes and make that a straight line. Make this see-through so I can see what I'm doing. And also I'm going to put the, okay, let me lock this shape. So I lock this background so it won't be moving on me. So I lock it. I'm going to select all four of my shapes. Turn them into hairlines, outlines. Right click, change the outline to blue. Left click to take away the fill. Now I can see what I'm doing. Instead of trying to fix both of these shapes, I'm just going to go back to the one I like, copy and paste it, flip this one around. Now that I know that this one's a straight edge, I can just plug this in the bottom of the end. Everything else, no, we have the Y. Alright, so we also have the Y. The Y almost looks like the M at the top, so I'm going to borrow that shape, copy and paste it, bring it over, and manipulate it to fit the Y. Alright, so now my eye, copy and paste it, and holding shift can come over and do this eye. Copy and paste the eye again, hold shift, start building my M. For that, I can just drag all the way over to the other side. I see the corners are a little tighter on this M than they are on the eye, so I'm going to use the smooth tool to make tighter corners. I'm going to do my N next, so I'm going to copy and paste and use the box, the same curved rectangle that I used for my M to make my N. Another I, so I'm going to copy and paste my I, holding shift and just drag it over. Go back to my N, copy and paste that box, drag it over to create the T. I'm going to bring this bottom line up to make this line on the T. Then I'm going to copy and paste it and hold shift and bring it to the middle. And then drag down my bottom line and make the curve of the T. This is just me in this particular piece of art making a decision. I could get this, well, no, let me go ahead and I'm going to copy and paste I'm going to copy and paste the shape at the bottom of the end, and I'm going to put it right here into what I call the armpit of the T. Drag this up. I'm going to make just a curve right here in that armpit of the T. Copy and paste it, hold control, flip it around, hold shift, slide it over, and go to the other armpit of the T. Alright? For my Y, I'm going to use the I, copy and paste it. So I'm going to do that again since I wasn't holding shift. If you don't hold shift, the shape is not going to be exactly the height of where the other letters are, and I need that even. I'm going to copy and paste this, flip it around, hold shift, and drag it over. Make the other side of my Y. I'm not too much worried about the inside of the Y. I'm going to show you in a second because I have a shape there, but I'm going to make sure that the outside is good. Okay, use my eye one more time, copy and paste it, hold shift, drag it down, and I'm doing the bottom, just the bottom of the Y is what I'm looking to focus on. Alright, so now as you see, I kind of have all the words mapped out, I should call it, where I have different outlines that are overlapping, but inside those outlines are my actual words, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through with the smart fill. I'm going to fill everything. Even though the eye only has one shape, I'm still going to fill it. I'm going to fill the M, the other eye, the N, the other eye. I'm going to fill the T, making sure that I get those armpits. I'm going to fill the Y, making sure that I get that little detail of the curve, making sure that I get everything on the bottom. Okay, so now that I have everything filled, I can kind of zoom out and see that I've built this word out in the font that they have. So now I'm checking to see what is it made of one shape. The I, the M, the I, the N, the I are all made of one shape. The T is made of these two armpits. I'm going to hold shift and select the armpits and all other four blocks that make this T, and I'm going to weld them together. It did not work. So let me see why not. This actually could be better on this. So I'm going to delete all this and I'm going to smart fill again. Okay, sometimes, and I'm gonna put the outline on zero. So I mean the outline on hairline so I can explain it. Sometimes objects have to be touching to be welded together, and sometimes you can't see what isn't touching, what isn't, because the outline is so big. So when I remove the outline, I can see that these objects are right next to each other, but there was a hole in there from when my shape overlapped from when I made the armpit that I did not fill. I'm gonna go back to fill that shape. You see how when I'm filling it, it looks way bigger than the shape is? That's because the outline is overlapping. So I'm going to change all these the same color, and I'm going to take the outline off of everything in the T. So now we're going to do no outline at all. And when you look now, there's no outline at all. There's still a line because there's still ever so minute gap in between them. I'm going to try to weld them together and see what happens. Weld them together, and they make a solid piece. So the reason that didn't work was because I had this little area right here that had holes in it. And the weld needs to be one solid shape of touching adjacent lines for it to make one shape, or else it gets kind of glitchy. So we're going to make sure we're doing the same thing with this one. If you want to, you can click them one by one. Like I can click just these two, weld them together, and say, okay, that's a good weld. Then just add this one, weld it together, okay, that's a good weld. I, though, tend to hold them all down using shift and selecting everything in the shape like I'm doing now, and then selecting weld and make a whole weld. Now, this is this little part that I filled in from when the loops came down to make the top of the Y. The reason why my Y has that point on it is because I didn't select that. So I'm selecting it now, and I'm going to weld that. Now you see my Y has the curve like it's supposed to. We got little pinches on the edge. Sometimes that happens. We're just going to fix that because we don't want any imperfections in the Y. Zoom out and it looks good. I can take my outline completely off now that I have a feel and see what I'm doing, and that's a good Y. I see the shape barely showing from behind it, like just that shadow of where the other Y was, and that lets me know that that was a good trace. So now I'm going to select every fill that I made, starting with the A. So I'm just selecting the fill. The fill will be on top, so it's going to be easy to select the fill and not select other outlines of the other shapes that you made. And what I mean by that is it's easier to select the whole M than it is to select this line because this M is in front of this line. Whatever you made last is always going to be to the front of the page. And it's easier to grab things that are in the forefront of the page than it is to grab objects that are that are layers underneath whatever's in front on the page. And by in front, I mean your very top layer, which is the last thing you created. For example, if I create a square right now, even though that square doesn't have an outline, if I go to click on what seems to be the I, the N, the I, the T, the Y, I'm gonna keep clicking on this square because the square was made last and it's on top. All right. So we're selecting everything that we use the Smart Fill tool for that made our whole letter. So the A, holding shift, I, M, I, N, I, T, Y. And we're going to weld them together. You see the color change? It went with whatever the a majority of the color was for these objects is what it's going to make the whole thing. That's another way that I know that I selected everything was that they all became the same color. If I hadn't, then one of the other letters would have still been its original color. And also, I can see that there are nodes around the whole word, which means that from A to Y, I have everything in between. I can also use that trick of moving this out the way. I see that I have the whole word. Control Z to put it back to where it was. The reason I'm hitting Control Z to put it back to where it was is so I don't have to line it up again. Now I can delete my trash. So the object in the back is currently locked. So me clicking on the object or the bitmap is ineffective right now because it's still locked. So I can literally just drag this across all my trash and erase it. As long as I don't drag it across the word amenity that I just grouped together, I'm good because this is one object. And I would have to drag it all the way around this object for me to select it. So as long as I drag it, it could be on the edge of the Y. I'm going to select everything from A to through T that's in the background. So I'm going to move this out the way again to let you see what I did. I erased everything that I drew to make these individual letters, so I only have the word. I'm going to erase the block that I'm using to make sure that the bottom was even. And I'm going to use my color drop tool to make this blue as well. Now that this is blue, I'm going to hold select, selecting the word and the symbol that I created, and I'm going to weld that. So if I move this to the side, you'll see that now I just have one shape. This is one object. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times to put it back to where it was. I can now hit the right click onto this bitmap, which this blank white space is part of the bitmap because as you see where the locks are around the space, that's how big the bitmap actually is. I'm going to unlock the bitmap and then I can move it out the way. So now I can compare the two, see if I have any flaws, see if there's anything I need to fix, see if there's any effects that I left out. And if I like what I see, then I delete the original bitmap, and there I have my piece of art. I'm going to delete this trash over here. I'm going to select my piece of art, press P to put it in the center of the page, and in this case, the art's going to be white on a black t-shirt, but I'm going to put it black for now so I can see it, and also so I can print it, because when I print, I'm going to change the color of what I'm printing with the ink itself because I'm printing t-shirts. So all art I do is going to be in black, so I'm not going to change this to white. I'm not going to change this piece of art to white. I'm going to print it in black. And then after I burn the screen, I'm going to put white ink and switch it through the screen on a black t-shirt. All right? So that's my first page. I'm going to Control X, which kind of puts that piece of art on the clipboard so I can leave what's done on one sheet. I'm going to right click and go to add page after to add a new sheet, and then I'm going to Control paste, and I'm going to bring over the second piece of art, the back of the shirt. So this is just blurry, but this is going to be a quick cleanup because it's white on black, which is really easy to trace. I'm going to click on the design, go to bitmap, and go to quick trace. And it's going to break this down for me and give me an outline. As you see, my O disappeared. I don't want that, so I'm going to hit Control Z and go back. And I'm going to try to do a more advanced trace. Sometimes quick trace will get it. Sometimes you have to go to outline trace. In this incident, I'm going to go to center line trace and go to technical illustration. So this is a trace as well. It's just a more intricate trace. It's going to load for a second, and then it's going to give me the option um, of changing it from center line to outline. When I change to outline, now it's just going to give me the outline of every object that it sees on the art. So if I give you some of the black, but it's definitely going to give you all of the white by itself with its own outline because there's a big contrast between the white words with the black outline on the surface. Sometimes it takes a second, so um, bear with me. If it takes too long, I'm going to show you a trick uh, to actually make this process a little faster. And it looks like it is. Um, I mean, it would have traced, but it's just taking too long for my liking. Oh, actually, it did trace. Okay, so it traced, but you see when I zoom in, it gives me way too many colors. Way too many colors to deal with. That's so much work to do. So I'm going to delete this and try again. The reason it's giving me all those grays is because if you zoom in, there's a gray area before you get to the white area, and there's dark gray before you get to the black area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a bitmap that's black by going to convert bitmap, changing it to black and white, hitting OK. And now I'm letting the computer decide what was a black line, what was a white line. So you see we've got some sketchiness up in there and it's still got a blur, but this is about to give me a way better trace. Actually, I'm gonna combine two things. One trick would be to turn it to a black and white bitmap. Another trick is to scale it down. So I'm holding shift so this will scale evenly, and I'm gonna make this significantly small because it's real big bold words. I can always make it bigger later. And I'm gonna turn it to a bitmap again. Now I'm still turning it into a black and white bitmap. But what happens is when I shrunk that piece of art down, it was still the same file. I just shrunk it down to get a different view. But when I converted it to bitmap as a smaller version, it literally just made this a smaller file. So computer-wise, this is taking up less space. It's less space to navigate, less information to read. So now let's go back to bitmap and go to centerline, technical illustration trace, and let's see how long this takes. I'm going to put on outline, and as you see, the first time where it said 15 seconds, the second time it literally took 3 seconds. And that is traced way cleaner. It knows what line is black and what line is white, so that it doesn't have all the gray in between. I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to move this over, and now I'm going to compare the two. This was very sketchy and itchy looking. This one is necessarily clean. Now it does have some waves there, right? It does have like some waviness in it, some little choppiness in the E. What can we do about that? I can get my smooth tool out. Hold on, jumping the gun. So first, I'm going to get every word I need out of here, every letter I need out of here by using my smart tool. So this is all one. This is all making individual letters off of this design that's been traced and been given to me as a group object. I'm going to use my square or my pick tool to highlight over all the letters, select them at once. I hold shift down to drag it over. So now you see I have selected all these letters out of the art and separated from the two sets. It has a black outline, which I don't need, so I'm going to take the outline off by left clicking um, the transparency bar, and then I'm going to turn them all black. So it needs to be black for me to print, not white. So this is going to be the color that I print in. Now I just want to do a little cleaner. So I'm going to go to my shape tool, go to smooth, And I'm gonna make my smooth tool a little bigger. If I'm 0.1, I'm gonna put on 0.5, and I'm just gonna literally swipe my mouse a couple times across each shape, which reduces the node. You don't want to manipulate it too much because you want to keep the shape of the original drawing. And if I made it smaller, I would have more manipulation. I purposely made it bigger because um, these letters are so bold. Matter of fact, I'm put on 0.3 and make it about half the size. These are so bold. I want to change a lot at the same time. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. Um, if there were very meticulous curves or edits I needed to do, I can make this as small as I think 0.01, and I could really go in and take my time and um, fix stuff like eyeballs and just real extra detail, eyelashes and stuff like that is what I usually use that for straightening it up. Like if I drew a picture and it was a picture that had pieces of hair or very fine pen strokes, and I was trying to turn to art, I would zoom in and use this tool to go in there and doctor anything that was wrong when I traced it. But like I said, this is real bold, so it's not a whole lot of doctoring to do, and it's also a sloppy graffiti style, so I don't worry about too much like messing it up, you know. But yeah, just getting everything round. This is round art, so we don't want all these cubes. Uh, all these pointy parts. It makes art like this. That's meant to be like drips and whatnot. Um, it makes it look unnatural. So I'm really just getting ready to see like that's a square, but it used to be circular. Since the drip is circular, it's not going to be um, dripping square. And that just gives a more natural look on your eyes. It makes more sense. And that's it. I have cleaned up the front and the back of this T-shirt. Um, I want to say it took me about 30 minutes, but I wasn't timing. I'm going to weld this together to make it one shape. Okay. Hit P to put it in the center of the page, and then I'm going to delete everything else. Delete my trash. I'm going to make my page 13 by 19, so that's the size that I print. It's going to be a full back, so it's going to be 12 inches by however tall. So 12 by 17 it is. And the front's going to remain small, so we're going to do it about 3.5 across. So 3.5 by 4. And that is it. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me.